Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Pradeep, and you are on India Reads. We are reading The Accidental Prime Minister, and we are on chapter number 12, Singh is King. Let's start. It is very important for us to move forward to end this nuclear apartheid that the world has sought to impose on India. Manmohan Singh to IFS probationers, 11 June 2008. After Sonia Gandhi's rebuff at the Hindustan Times Summit in September 2007, Dr. Singh went silent on the nuclear deal. The Congress party and the left kept up a show of continuing to discuss the deal in 15-member UPLF committee. Senior Congress ministers including Pranab Mukherjee, Kapil Sibal and Prithviraj Chauhan would sit with Karat Yechuri, A.B. Bardhan, D. Raja and others and come out of these meetings with inane statements about how the government was clarifying the doubts raised by the left. Even after 6 meetings during the September-November 2007, left spokesperson would continue to claim that they were only offering the government an honorable exit route and the left did not want the deal operationalized till the scheduled general elections in 2009 and certainly not as long as George Bush remained US president. Despite the left's rigid stance, the government managed to get the left's permission to proceed with the IAEA to negotiate an India specific safeguards agreement, adding the proviso that the left would have to approve of such an agreement before the government took the next step, which would be to sign on the 123 agreement so that the US president could secure congressional approval for the deal with India. In his first public reference to the nuclear deal after the Hindustan Times Summit, Dr. Singh told the AICC on 17 November 2007, referring to the problem of power shortage at home and the need to increase power generation capacity. We are in the process of finalizing a historical agreement with the United States which will enhance our prospects of increasing the production of nuclear power. There are doubts and misgivings in many minds about this agreement. The civil nuclear agreement is an effort to open closed doors so that we can obtain nuclear fuel and technology from other countries such as USA, Russia, and France. Having explained this for the nth time from a written text, he then chose to add extempore. The agreement concerns only the civil side of the nuclear energy program and will have no bearing on our strategic program. It remains intact without international interference and would not affect our sense of judgment on foreign policy. You need to understand the reality and explain it to our people. Coming after him, Sonia too referred in positive terms to the nuclear deal and added, working in a coalition does not mean that the Congress would lose its political space forever. This enthused the votaries of the deal. Journalists following the issue would ask me if the deal was not yet dead. Some would even sit in my room and take bets on the topic, but at that time I was still not sure if what Sonia had said signaled a change in her own position or whether this was her way of not letting the PM down in public even while pressing him to give up in private. That Dr. Singh went once again into prolonged silence on the issue suggested to me that it might be the later. It was only 4 months later, in his reply to the debate on the motion of thanks to the President for her address to Parliament on 5 March 2008, that he made a reference to the deal. This time, however, I knew he was once again serious about moving forward because we had crossed an important turning point in the interminable discussions on the deal. On 20th September 2008, John Kerry, a US Senator and Chairman at the time of the US Senate Commission on Foreign Relations, landed in New Delhi along with his congressional colleagues Joseph Biden, later to become the US Vice President, and Chuck Hagel. They were in India to discuss the situation in Afghanistan, but the conversations quickly moved on to the fate of the nuclear deal. Dr. Singh briefed them on the state of play and said that he was trying still to evolve a domestic political consensus that will enable him to complete the negotiations within the US. With the US, the three offered some candid advice. They stressed that it was imperative that India complete all necessary steps to conclude the nuclear deal by end July to ensure that the US Congress would approve it before the presidential election. Otherwise, warned Kerry, it would be very difficult for the Congress to ratify it. If it is not ratified by the Congress by July end, then there is no prospect. In order to have time for the agreement to be passed in the Senate, said Kerry, it should be brought up by end May. So I think, he added, somewhere in the next few weeks the decision has got to happen. Kerry advised that the agreement process should be completed in the US Congress with a Republican president still in office and a Republican majority in the Senate. The forthcoming US elections, he predicted, would bring up the Democratic Party to power, and the Democrats all agreed would find it very difficult to support the nuclear deal. Interestingly, Kerry and Biden were Democrats and Hagel was then a Republican. In late February 2008, it was not clear whether Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton would get the Democratic Party nomination. They were still competing in the primaries. The US media had been reporting that Barack Obama won the candidacy, If Barack Obama won the candidacy, Biden would be Secretary of State, and if Clinton came on top, then Kerry would be her Secretary of State. Of course, in the end, Biden became Obama's Vice President. Kerry succeeded Clinton as Obama's Secretary of State, and Hagel became Secretary of Defense in Obama's second term. While all three focused on the requirements of the US legislative timeline, Kerry went a step further and drew Dr. Singh's attention to the enormous influence exerted within the Democratic Party by non-proliferationist K. Subramaniam had famously dubbed them as Ayatollahs of nuclear non-proliferation. Kerry warned Dr. Singh that a future Democratic president would not be able to do for India what President George Bush was willing and ready to do. He made it clear that neither Obama nor Hillary Clinton would challenge the anti-deal non-proliferation lobby and its rigid anti-India stance in their party. In the event, neither Obama nor Clinton voted in favor of the 123 agreement in the Senate. The three senior American leaders were only confirming what Dr. Singh always knew, that if there was any chance of India getting the nuclear deal, it was only because President Bush wanted to do this for India. It was not because Bush had any special love for India. After the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the US, the specter of jihadi terrorism had come to haunt the US and led American leaders to understand what the Indian counterparts had been telling them about the need to fight this threat. Moreover, the inexorable rise of China was beginning to alter not just Asian balance of power but also the global balance of power. Helping a democracy like India would become stronger would enable it to deal both with the threat of Islamic radicalization and the rise of China. The US had a stake in this outcome, and critically Bush was willing to ignore the non-proliferationist objections. Other US leaders were not as willing. It was crystal clear to everyone involved in the negotiations that without President Bush's personal commitment, they would not have even reached this stage. Securing a sound and honorable 123 agreement was as much a tribute to the Indian negotiation skills as it was to President Bush's desire to be fair in his dealings with India, a country he saw as being on his side. When critics of the Bush in India poked fun at him, saying that he had an American cowboy's view of the world, that there are good guys and bad guys, the axis of evil as he called them, I would ask why one should criticize a man who thought we Indians were the good guys. As Biden, Hagel, and Kerry walked out of their meeting with Dr. Singh, I suggested to Kerry that he brief the media waiting outside the 7 RCR and let them know what the PM had been told. He readily agreed and did just that. Biden chipped and added a number of senators are prepared to vote for the 123 agreement, though they do not think it is as good as it should have been. Their reluctance on substance, said Biden, was overcome by their belief in the India-US relationship. Kerry went on to the extent of certifying to the media that he did not think India was a proliferator. That conversation set Dr. Singh thinking. After September 2007, when negotiations appeared to be on a policy threadmill, only motion but no movement forward, Dr. Singh gave the impression of having given up hope of concluding the deal. In March 2008, when he again initiated a dialogue with supporters of the deal, he was pleasantly surprised to find Brajesh Mishra willing to back him. Mishra had been the first to jump the gun, so to speak, and attack the deal on the very day it was unveiled, 18 June 2005. His initial opposition caused the government dear because he was the National Security Advisor who had initiated the NSSP, the precursor to the agreement that Dr. Singh was seeking. Many in the Foreign Service took their cue from him and became internal saboteurs of the deal. Several interlocutors spoke to Mishra on the PM's behalf, and finally Dr. Singh himself reached out to Mishra. Until February 2008, Mishra was not even ready to publicly endorse the deal. After Kerry's visit, it would seem, he finally came on board endorsing the deal as being in India's interest. I encouraged Karan Thapar to interview him and make this public. Mishra told Thapar that if the government were to now back off and not clinch the deal with the US, it will become a serious loss of face for India. He said that he had been briefed by various representatives of the government in India at fairly high levels and some scientists, and he was now convinced that there was not going to be any major impact on the strategic program through the deal. This deal does not stop us from continuing our strategic program. When asked by Thapar if the time was opportune for India to sign on, Mishra said, now, now, now. Dr. Singh was pleased and made a point of raising the matter in the parliament. He told the Lok Sabha, Sir, I was very happy some days ago that the former National Security Advisor, Shri Brajesh Mishra, came out openly in defense of the Nuclear Cooperation Agreement. The second shot was fired by Subramaniam. He wrote a column that India Abroad News Service IANS put out on 16 March 2008, titled Will the nuclear deal finally go ahead? In fact, Subramaniam challenged the Congress government to pursue an independent foreign policy, one that was independent of the left. Resorting uncharacteristically to political commentary, he remarked that the strategy of the left was to denigrate the Congress and make it less acceptable to the left's potential third front allies so as to revive the non-Congress, non-BJP experiment that the left had backed in the mid 1990s. Many journalists followed this line of agreement with the result that the media overwhelmingly came in support of Dr. Singh taking further steps to pursue the nuclear deal. With the exception of the Hindu and the Asian Age, Deccan Chronicle, two interlinked newspapers with a common editor, and a few Urdu newspapers, most major English, Hindi, and other language newspapers and television channels supported the Prime Minister. Public opinion polls conducted by India Today, Outlook, CNN, IBN, and the Times of India showed a clear majority supporting the PM and the nuclear deal. With the media's backing, the PM gained confidence and began pushing the envelope. On 24 March, while laying the foundation stone of the Bhavana Power Project in Delhi, he once again spoke publicly of the need to develop India's nuclear energy potential. At the PMO, we were busy collecting data from the Nuclear Power Corporation to show that capacity utilization of all nuclear power plants was gradually declining because of the shortage of uranium. This was even threatening the functioning of a few nuclear power plants. The DAE had claimed in the past that India need not worry about imported uranium because of the availability of the domestic supply in the northeast. However, the environmental groups had been blocking uranium mining in that region. With no domestic production of uranium worth the name, the lack of imports was starving nuclear plants. Such hard facts helped the government win public opinion, but the left continued to resist, allowing the government to go to the IAEA to negotiate a safeguards agreement. It even threatened to boycott the meetings of the UPLF committee, and some left leaders began issuing statements that they might not have to reconsider their support to the UPA. Not surprisingly, this curbed Dr. Singh's enthusiasm and led to a few telltale silences on his part. He did not bring up the subject when he spoke at the UPA's anniversary celebrations on 22nd May 2008 while presenting the annual report to the public. With left leaders present in full strength and the anniversary dinner at 7 RCR, journalists attending the event assumed that the deal was once again dead, drawing attention to the fact that the PM made no reference of it in his speech. But the Prime Minister was not in fact giving up on the deal. A fortnight later, a sharp rise in oil prices forced the government to effect a steep hike in petrol, diesel, kerosene, and LPG prices. Dr. Singh decided to address the nation on 4 June. In a televised address, he explained in detail why the government was being forced to undertake an across the board hike in energy prices and boldly ended his address saying, "We have to develop alternative sources of energy, whatever be the source. We cannot remain captive to uncertain markets and unsure sources of supply. We have to develop renewable sources of energy, including nuclear energy." The next day, the left front threatened to quit if the government did not roll back the price hike and announced that it would meet on 23rd June to evaluate the political situation and the relations with the UPA government. On 9 June, Dr. Singh inaugurated an international conference on disarmament on the theme "Towards a World Free of Nuclear Weapons" to mark the 20th anniversary of Rajiv Gandhi's address on that subject to the UN General Assembly. His speech, written by a PMO official, repeated the government's top views on the subject. It seemed to me that Dr. Singh was paying ritual obeisance to disarmament before making one last ditch attempt at securing India's status as a nuclear weapons power. 2 days later, on 11 June, Dr. Singh spoke from his heart in an extempore address lasting almost an hour to a group of Indian Foreign Service probationers. He spoke eloquently about his views on Indian foreign and strategic policy. Since we had installed a recording system at Panchavati, the meeting rooms at 7 RCR, it was possible to record and transcribe the full text of the PM's speech and place it on the PMO's website. He spoke about every major issue confronting Indian foreign policy, including climate change, a relatively recent challenge, hard power and soft power, non-alignment and coalition building, relationships with neighbor and big powers. The world is not a morality play, Dr. Singh told the young diplomats. The world's political and economic system is a power play, and those who have greater power use it to their advantage. Our effort has been through collective strategies to work with various coalitions of developing countries and sometimes with coalitions of like-minded developed countries, so to create an environment where power factor does not work to our disadvantage. It was a masterful survey of Indian foreign policy and offered a group of young diplomats a panoramic view from the Prime Minister's vantage point. Then, at the very end of a long survey, he finally touched a subject that he had not spoken much in recent weeks, highlighting the significance of the nuclear deal for national security and India's global standing. He boldly claimed, "It protects our interests It protects our capacity to use nuclear power to protect our strategic interests. At the same time, it opens up new opportunities for civilian cooperation, and without that, I think the trade in dual technologies, sensitive advanced technologies cannot become a reality. But our domestic politics has prevented us from going ahead. I still continue to hope that we will make progress in the months that lie ahead. But it is very important for us to move forward to end this nuclear apartheid that the world has sought to impose on India. This agreement, if it materializes, if it sees the light of day, will open up new possibilities of cooperation not only with the US but all other nuclear powers like Russia, France, who are very keen that once we have this deal through, India should become eligible for civil nuclear cooperation. It was very clear that PM was going to make one last effort. Interestingly, a day after Dr. Singh's remarks appeared in the media, Sonia Gandhi too spoke about the importance of the nuclear energy while addressing a farmers' rally in Assam and located it in the context of rising oil prices. It seemed that something was bubbling below the surface. On Wednesday, 18 June, I was being driven to office around half past 9 in the morning when I saw a couple of cars parked in 7 RCR compound and police escort cars parked on the road outside. This was normal whenever the PM was having a meeting with anybody entitled to a police escort. The escort cars would always be parked outside the RCR compound. However, since I knew the PM's official schedule that day, I wondered who he was with so early in the morning and why the meeting was not shown in his daily programming sheet. I called Subbu on the mobile and asked what was happening. He told me that Sonia Gandhi had come calling on the PM and the two had later been joined by Pranab Mukherjee. The two had the two of us agreed that something very important was being discussed, and Subbu promised to call and let me know when he found out what was going on. I sat in my room at South Block waiting for a call. I was jolted when Subbu finally called to say that Dr. Singh was unwell and had to cancel all his appointments for a day. In Telugu, he mumbled to me that I should drive down to RCR. When I met him there, Subbu told me that he did not know what had transpired at the meeting, but he did know that Dr. Singh had spoken to Sonia the previous night. Prior to her visit this morning, given our knowledge of the tensions around the nuclear deal, we immediately assumed that the fat was finally in the fire. The boss had given his quit notice. There was no way anything could be confirmed because not only had the PM cancelled all his appointments, he was not even available to meet his own staff. Narayan, Nair, and I were told that the PM would not meet anyone in the PMO. I returned to South Block and spent the next few hours dealing with phone calls from the media. I blandly told the suspicious reporters who had heard the news of the day's appointments being cancelled that Dr. Singh was indisposed. Later in the afternoon, Rajdeep Sardesa of the CNN IBN called me. He had heard from a reliable source that Dr. Singh had submitted his resignation, he said, and his channel was going to run with the story. Did I have any comments? I requested Rajdeep to hold on, assuring him that I would return with a comment. When I called Subbu, he suggested that I call 3RCR directly and asked to speak to the PM. I did so and Dr. Singh came onto the line. I told him what Rajdeep had said. Dr. Singh kept quiet for a while and suggested I say nothing. I knew that the deed had been done. I did not call Rajdeep back and did not take his calls either. Obviously, guessing something was wrong, he ran the story citing reliable sources. However, he reported the resignation not as a certainty but as a likely event. I switched my mobile off, knowing that I would be flooded with media inquiries. Within a few minutes, I was summoned by the PM. When I met him at home, he looked unusually relaxed. Certainly, the burden was now off his shoulders. Yes, he told me he had spoken to Sonia the previous day and told her that his position had become untenable. He also explained what had led to his offer to resign. The Indian side had been all set to go to the IAEA to negotiate an India-specific safeguards agreement, but the left wanted the draft agreement to be shown to them before they authorized the government to go to the international body. This was not this was impossible, said the PM. As a secret document, the draft agreement could not be shown to those not in government until the negotiations with the IAEA had ended. Moreover, India would be placed in an embarrassing position if at this stage the government chose to stay away from the IAEA on account of left arm twisting. The IAEA chief Mohammed El Baradei had privately assured Indian officials that he would ensure a positive outcome for India. Thus, Dr. Singh had concluded that if the government did not go to the IAEA now, he had no opinion but to quit. Dr. Singh saw little point in continuing the charade of negotiations by the UPA left committee. It was clear to him that the left would never support the government. The choice before the government was, in his mind, obvious: ignore the left and proceed, or agree with the left and stay put. Explaining this to Sonia Gandhi, the PM had told her that if the UPA chose the second option, he would have to find it would have to find another prime minister to lead the coalition. Sonia requested Dr. Singh to sleep on the issue. When, after meeting him the next morning, she realized he was serious, she summoned Pranab Mukherjee. The crucial meeting had been on, and as I had driven past RCR that morning. Pranab Mukherjee had left RCR that morning to meet Karat and Yechuri and tell them what had happened. The next morning, on 19 June, Hindu's lead headline was Congress left near breakup on nuclear deal. It reported, among other things, that a meeting of UPA left committee scheduled for the 18th evening had been postponed because of the PM's threat to quit if he was not allowed to go ahead with the nuclear deal. 2 days of hectic activity followed. The following day, I learned from a political reporter that Montek had gone to see Sonia. I assumed she had summoned him to get to speak to the PM and soften him up. Just a few minutes after I had heard this, I spotted Montek in South Block and invited him into my room and asked him what Sonia had told him. Surprised that I knew of this meeting, he immediately asked if I had heard about it from Dr. Singh. That giveaway question confirmed my theory that Sonia had asked Montek to persuade Dr. Singh to withdraw his resignation. Montek admitted as much. Yes, Sonia did request him to convince the PM not to resign, he said. So, what did the PM say? I asked. Not surprisingly, Montek ignored my question and proffered the view that the boss could wait on the deal. He reasoned that Dr. Singh would still be PM in 2009 after the US elections were over. He felt it would be easier for the Congress party to conclude the deal with a Democrat in the White House. I recalled Kerry's advice and told Montek that it had to be now or never. Clearly not keen to discuss the matter, he agreed with me and laughed in his characteristically friendly manner. Tough call for boss, he said, and walked out of my room. I sat there worried. If Sonia had summoned Montek to get him to advise the PM to back off, surely she would deploy others too. Many around Dr. Singh want to be even more risk averse than him. They would, in all likelihood, counsel him to remain in office and complete his term rather than be heroic and risk a downfall. Would Dr. Singh then have the courage to stand firm and call their bluff? I wondered. My own view that Sonia simply would not allow the PM to step down was shared by Subramaniam. He urged me to persuade the PM to stand firm. Tell him she cannot afford to see him go. She will have to back him and he must be firm. Only you can tell him that, said Subramaniam when I went to seek his guidance. I then called on Dr. Singh at 3 RCR. Both he and Mrs. Kaur were seated in the living room, each reading a book. That was such a familiar sight. I had seen them this way on innumerable occasions, just the two of them reading together in companionable silence. When I asked him about Sonia's message sent through Montek, Dr. Singh confirmed that she was trying to persuade him to wait and not force the pace of events. I warned him that if he did not act now, the rest of the term would be wasted. The left would smell victory and might even press for a change of prime minister. I reminded him that the left had a track record of doing just that. They had claimed credit for replacing the pro-business Morarji Desai with the pro-farmer Charan Singh in 1978, of forcing the exit of VP Singh and replacing him with the young Turk Chandrasekhar in 1989, of helping leftist Ike Gujral replace pro-Narsimha Rao Devegowda in 1997. Now they will claim credit. I warned him for replacing the neoliberal Manmohan Singh with the secular Arjun Singh. Bengali Pranab, the CPIM, was essentially a Bengal party, or leftist Antony, who was an old ally of the comrades from Kerala. Dr. Singh laughed. I am ready to go. Any of them can be made PM. Why not? I agonized of what his record in office would be if he were to go. After all, the party was busy claiming credit for all the good work done in his time. Between Sonia and the NAC, they would say that they had done everything. It would be as if you'd done nothing, I told the PM. If you don't get through this one initiative that everybody identifies you with, what can you claim to be as your legacy? Dr. Singh remained quiet, but Mrs. Kaur nodded her head in agreement. I then used an argument I knew would not appeal to her. Ma'am, he will be just another Gujral if he doesn't do this. She laughed. Everyone knows Gujral was a prime minister, but what did he achieve? I continued. In fact, what did Devegowda achieve? What did VP Singh achieve? At least they have the excuse that they were in office for just about a year. After 4 years, what can the PM claim he has done, when all the credit for everything other than the deal is given to her? Huh, she said in agreement. He continued to remain silent. I was not sure Dr. Singh thought of my outspokenness, what he thought of my outspokenness, but I was not too worried. I had already informed him of my plans to quit and move to Singapore for personal reasons. He knew why I had to do that. He also knew I had no axe to grind in urging him to stand his ground. Finding the left adamant and unable to let Dr. Singh go, Sonia Gandhi finally took a call. The government would be allowed to go to the IAEA and complete negotiation on the safeguards agreement. She left it to Pranab Mukherjee to try and prevent the left from withdrawing support. It remained to be seen whether he could swing that. After all the hectic activity of the preceding days, September 21 June was a quiet day. I had lunch at home and was enjoying a siesta when my mobile phone rang. A friend of Party leader Amar Singh was on the line. Mr. Baru, I have a message for you, he said. My friend Mr. Amar Singh is in hospital in Colorado. He wants you to tell the Prime Minister that the American doctors are very good and they are taking good care of him. He is very happy here and he says Americans are such warm and friendly people and we should have good relations with them. I was not aware that Amar Singh had been hospitalized, so I politely inquired after his health and said I would inform the PM. It would be good if you can convey this message as soon as possible, he added. Maybe the Prime Minister would want to wish Amar Singh a speedy recovery. Later that afternoon, I met Dr. Singh and conveyed what was clearly a political signal from Amar Singh. He had hinted through this intermediary that Samajwadi Party's willingness to support Dr. Singh on the nuclear deal. I felt Amar Singh might want to speak directly to the PM and suggested Dr. Singh call him. He had a perfect alibi for doing so, given that he was in hospital and in poor health. The two men were not distant acquaintances. Indeed, Dr. Singh and Amar Singh, both members of the Rajya Sabha, got on well, even though their personalities and reputations were poles apart. In fact, Amar Singh often demonstrated great regard and affection for the PM. It was the nature of the parliament to facilitate such peculiar and unlikely friendships. Months later, Amar Singh would claim credit for getting the nuclear deal done. Calling me from his hospital bed in Singapore, he asked me to come and see him. So I paid him a visit, walking in after Amitabh Bachchan, his wife Jaya, and their family had left the room. So, who do you think are the architects of the nuclear deal? He asked me. Before I could reply, he added, you will see George Bush and Manmohan Singh. Let me tell you, it was George Bush and Amar Singh. I have no idea what the PM did after that call from Amar Singh, but a couple of days later, media reports appeared suggesting that Mulayam Singh Yadav was rethinking his opposition to the nuclear deal. Karat panicked and called on Yadav. On 25 June, a few hours before the meeting of the UPA left committee, Karat met Yadav at his son Akhilesh Yadav's home in New Delhi to secure his support for the left's unchanged opposition to the nuclear deal. Mulayam remained non-committal and said that he had convened a meeting of his party on 3rd July where they would take a final decision. Karat met Yadav again on 1st July. After that meeting, Amar Singh, who had returned from US by then, briefed the media and said Samajwadi Party wanted all secular forces to remain united. A division in the secular forces would be harmful for the country. The message to the UPA was reinforced. The Samajwadi Party was willing to part ways with the left and support the Congress on the nuclear deal in the name of unity of all secular forces. The next day, on 2nd July, Narayan called on Yadav and Amar Singh and briefed them on the nuclear deal. On 3rd July, the United National Progressive Alliance outfit headed by Yadav met to take a final view and resolved to consult experts and scientists before taking a decision. Yadav and Amar Singh went straight from this meeting to call on former President Abdul Kalam. Kalam promptly issued a statement in support of the nuclear deal and urged Yadav to support the government. Not only Kalam was a distinguished technocrat, a Bharat Ratna and a former Rashtrapati, he was also a Muslim. His support for the nuclear deal with the US was exactly the kind of political backing Mulayam needed to justify the switch to his own cadres. It was all pre-planned and worked like clockwork. That afternoon, Narayan met Amar Singh and Samajwadi Party MP Ram Gopal Yadav, also someone who enjoyed good personal relations with Dr. Singh, at an undisclosed location to avoid the media. This venue, the venue many believed was an IB safe house at Lutyens, Delhi. After their meeting, Narayan handed me an elaborate statement to be issued to the media that contains several restatements of the government policy aimed at satisfying the Samajwadi Party. Mulayam and Amar Singh wanted the PMO to give public assurance that in going ahead with the nuclear deal, India would neither compromise its independent foreign policy and strategic autonomy nor disrupt its relations with Iran and so on. The party wanted these assurances primarily because of its large Muslim support base. Narayan's activism on this front may have well been shaped by his desire triggered by Dr. Singh's poser. Who knows what you have done all your life as an intelligence officer to enter the history books. Equally, he may have been expected to deliver on his usual boast to one and all that he had a file on them. Narayan may well have had many on his interlocutors in his set of negotiations, and this time he would be making use of them in the best interest of the country and not just his government and its political masters. On 8 July, Dr. Singh flew to Japan to participate in a G8 outreach meeting. I stayed at home to wind up my affairs since I had already submitted my resignation and was scheduled to leave for Singapore by the end of July. On board his aircraft, Dr. Singh met the accompanying media and told them the government had decided to go to the IAEA to conduct the safeguards agreement very soon. Many in Delhi were surprised. I called Jaideep Sarkar, who was with Dr. Singh. Yes, he has done it, said Jaideep. In mid flight, after leaving Delhi and with no one stopping him, Dr. Singh took the final plunge. With Mulam and 29 MPs on his side, Dr. Singh was confident that he would have the numbers in parliament in case a vote of confidence had to be secured. A nervous Congress party did not know what to say. Journalists trying to get a reaction from the party found no one willing to comment. The next day, on 9 July, the left front predictably announced the withdrawal of its support to the UPA government. Pranab Mukherjee then jumped the gun by issuing a statement that the government would seek a vote of confidence in parliament and only then go to the IAEA. He was unaware of what was going on in Dr. Singh's mind. Far away in distance, Sapporo in Japan, the PM was finally acting on his own. A day after Mukherjee's pledge that the government would not approach the IAEA until it had won the trust vote in parliament, the government in fact chose to approach the IAEA, rubbishing Dr. Mukherjee's assurance. Returning home on 10 July, Dr. Singh informed President Pratibha Patil that he would seek a vote of confidence later that month. The media was full of reports and analysis and statements from the BJP and left, both of whom had made common cause. Sorry. I'm sorry, I just jumped the page. Returning home on 10 July, Dr. Singh informed President Pratibha Patil that he would seek a vote of confidence later that month. The media was full of reports and analysis and statements from the BJP and left, both of whom had made common cause in their opposition to the deal. The Congress party was clearly confused and went silent. Dr. Singh agreed to meet few senior editors from the electronic media because TV was not playing a larger role in influencing public opinion, but most news channels were broadly supportive of the PM. The print media was still dominated by an older generation of journalists who were either skeptical about relations with the US or an explicit pro BJP or pro left sympathies. Television journalists, on the other hand, were younger, were more open minded, and less politically biased. In fact, almost every TV channel was willing to be supportive of the PM with very little effort on my part. With the date set for the vote of confidence, Dr. Singh got down to gathering support. He spoke to all UPA leaders and met as many MPs as necessary. He asked for a list of MPs who had spoken in his support on various occasions and made sure that he called each one of them. The debate in Parliament was exhaustive and he had several moments of great oratory and well informed and reasoned discourse, as well as moments of high emotion, showmanship, and drama. The argument that a strategic understanding with the United States would not go well with India's Muslim community was rubbished by several Muslim MPs from across the parties, including Asaduddin Owaisi of the All India Majlis-e-Ittehadul Muslimin, Umar Abdullah of the National Conference, and Mehbooba Mufti of the People's Democratic Party, all of whom spoke eloquently in Dr. Singh's support. Whatever the outcome of the vote, whoever heard the debate was now well informed on the facts and the fears. Returning home late on the first day of the debate, 21 July, I switched on the TV and tried to relax. One of the channels was playing a song from the yet to be released film called Singh is King. The song had great rhythm and beat. It was the kind of song that made you shake your shoulders and hips. As I went to bed, I amused myself by imagining TV news channels playing this song the next day, where Dr. Singh to indeed win the vote of confidence. Tuesday, 22 July was a 10th day. Congress party leaders and Narayanan met the PM to assure him that the government had the numbers. Dr. Singh looked pleased and confident, though a bit nervous. Everything had been going well until after lunch. But the trouble was lying in wait. At 4 p.m., some members of the BJP placed wads of rupee notes on the table of Lok Sabha General Secretary and alleged that they had been paid the money in exchange for support of the government. Senior BJP leaders then informed the media that a sting operation had also been conducted by a TV channel and proof of the bribing which should be shown on TV. I was at South Block at that time and rushed to Parliament. Dr. Singh was closeted with Sonia Gandhi, Pranab Mukherjee and other senior party leaders. Prithviraj Chauhan came out of the room and called Rajdeep Sardesai of CNN IBN, the TV channel that had filmed the alleged sting, and warned him of legal consequences if the channel televised the visuals. When Sonia Gandhi and other leaders left the PM's room, I walked in. Dr. Singh was ashamed faced. He looked pale and ill, almost as if he would collapse or break down crying. I had never seen him like this, silent, motionless, shell-shocked and grief-stricken. This was not the way he had imagined the day would end. This was not the way either that he had imagined that the issue would play out. This was his most important political initiative for which he had fought a hard political battle for 3 long years. He was on the cusp of victory. Despite the betrayal of the left, he had managed to stitch together a coalition of willing. He had never imagined that in the end his heroic enterprise would be sullied by a scandal. Watching him in silence, I could read his mind. Only the previous evening, on the 21st, he had firmly denied allegations that he was securing support for his government by paying bribes. He had bravely asked the opposition to produce evidence, confident that there would be no such evidence. Advani was on TV reminding the PM of his challenge. Yesterday, he had asked for evidence, today, we had bought it. But at no point in the negotiation, Yadav or any other political party had the PM authorized offering cash in exchange of votes. The carrot that he was willing to offer was ministerial berths in exchange of political support. That indeed was what he had offered Yadav. This was, after all, a legitimate bargaining chip in democratic politics. In all democracies across the world, coalition governments are built by political parties extending support in exchange of for ministerial berths and other governmental perks. That is how coalitions have been built in India in the past too. He had done nothing illegitimate and Mulayam had extended support. So how did this cash for votes scandal happen? Was this the initiative of an over-enthusiastic wheeler dealer in the party or a conspiracy to sully the PM's image or reputation? Was it the work of those angry with Dr. Singh for forcing a split with the left and a near collapse of the government? Were there elements that hoped that he would resign and quit, opening up the possibility for a change of leadership and return to business as usual with the left? A variety of conspiracy theories swirled around in my mind as I sat in front of a man who looked defeated only hours before a victory. When the Lok Sabha reconvened, Dr. Singh hoped that he would get a chance to speak, but that right and courtesy was denied to him by the opposition that heckled and disrupted the session. He had spent considerable time over the previous week working on the speech. Montek Narayan and I had worked on various parts of it where the PM himself added sentences referring to the betrayal of the left, which he had originally agreed to support that which had originally agreed to support the initiative he had taken and then backed out. He wanted to say, all I had asked our left colleagues was please allow us to go through the negotiation process and I will come to the parliament before operationalizing the nuclear agreement. This simple courtesy, which is essential for the orderly functioning of any government, was the name, particularly with regard to the conduct of the foreign policy, they were not willing to grant me. They wanted a veto over every single step of the negotiation, which is not acceptable. They want me to behave as their bonded slave. He had agreed to conclude on an uncharacteristically personal note. I have often said that I am a politician by accident. I have held many diverse responsibilities. I have been a teacher. I have been an official by the government of India. I have been a member of this greatest of parliaments. But I have never forgotten my life as a young boy in a distant village. Every day that I have been a Prime Minister of India, I have tried to remember that for the first 10 years of my life I spent in a village with no drinking water supply, no electricity, no hospital, no roads, and nothing that we today associate with modern living. I had to walk miles to school. I had to study in the dim light of a kerosene oil lamp. The nation gave me the opportunity to ensure that this would not be the life of our children in the foreseeable future. Sir, my conscience is clear that on every day that I have occupied this high office, I have tried to fulfill the dream of that young boy from that distant village. But the speech was never delivered, merely tabled and circulated to the media. That afternoon, Lok Sabha Speaker Somnath Chatterjee, who belonged to the CPIM, revealed in public what we already knew in private. He expressed his anger at the political games Prakash Karat had been playing and the wrecking of the coalition that he had helped construct. A short while earlier, he had refused to accept the CPIM's demand that he quit as a Lok Sabha Speaker because his party had withdrawn support to the UPA. Chatterjee had been elected Speaker as part of left's understanding to support UPA. On 22 July, he went on to chair a meeting of political parties in Parliament to resolve the crisis created by the so-called cash forward scandal and reconvened to the Lok Sabha to put the confidence motion. The next day, the CPIM Politburo met and expelled Chatterjee from their party's membership. Chatterjee remained unfazed. He had not only disapproved of Karat's tactics but had openly supported the Prime Minister of his initiative. Somnath had a personal regard for Dr. Singh. The friendship was cemented by their years together in the Rajya Sabha. But Dr. Singh would always recall the fact that Somnath's father, Nirmal Chandra Chatterjee, a lawyer and a public intellectual, and once president of the Akhil Bharatiya Hindu Mahasabha, had awarded him a scroll of honor for securing the first rank in Amritsar's Hindu College way back in 1950. It was the same Somnath who had held up a copy of the Economic Times on Budget Day in 1992 to charge the then finance minister with leaking budget secrets to the IMF. Now, more than 15 years later, he presided over Dr. Singh's toughest day in Parliament and declared his victory. At the end of a long day, made longer by the fact that several MPs had preferred to cast their votes on paper rather than use Lok Sabha's electronic voting system, and those votes had to be physically counted. Somnath announced that 275 MPs had voted in support of the government, 256 had voted against it, and 10 had either abstained or were absent. An uproar greeted the victory. I sent a text message from my mobile phones to several journalists with just 3 words: Singh is king. Later that night, when I reached home and switched on the TV, every TV channel was running that jingle from the movie with visuals of a tired Prime Minister standing in front of TV cameras, holding his hands up with a in a V sign. With that, I come to the end of chapter 12. This has been a very interesting chapter. It shows how Dr. Singh held his ground against all odds, against the left. He called out left's bluff. He was in a way also lucky that the Samajwadi Party kind of reached out on its own through Amar Singh sitting in a hospital in US, who later therefore rightfully claimed that the deal was between him and George Bush. But it was Dr. Singh's grit and determination to get the deal through despite having no supporters in his own party for it. And as things turned out, as people realized that he was going to crack the deal, slowly the party also started supporting him. Samajwadi's numbers in place, he was going on a foreign tour. As he was sitting on the flight, all the drama unfolded. Uh, it went on to the extent that even a senior CPIM leader who was the Lok Sabha speaker backed Dr. Singh. I think the chapter is quite self-explanatory. I don't need to go delve too much into it. There are not too many layers here. They're not something that you cannot understand. Um, and Sing is King is was the song that was popular at that point of time of an upcoming movie. And by this time Sanjay Baru had already resigned, and so he was kind of completing his last few months on the term, on this stint. Uh, and yeah, so when the deal got through and Dr. Singh kind of cracked it, he went back home, he switches on the TV, and all the journalists are playing Sing is King, which is the message that he had sent to them as a text message. So with this, we come to the end of this very interesting chapter. We are almost coming to the end of the book, and it's getting far more interesting here. I wish I could speak a little longer, but after yesterday's very long video, I want to try and cut it short and keep very, try and be very more specific. Of course, this chapter did not have too much to unravel. I'll see you in the next chapter, and till then, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you. Bye bye.